How far can the wrath of a grieving parent go? Well, in the following cases, not even the confines of a courtroom could stop the parents from delivering justice to the brutal murderers of their children. In June 2022, an extraordinary occurrence unfolded in a Cincinnati courtroom. Desean Brown waited calmly in the courtroom for his verdict following the gruesome murder of a mother and her 3-year-old son. What he wasn't waiting for, however, was the unexpected punishment that would be meted out on him by his victim's father. Let's go to the Hamilton Common Pleas Courthouse to watch the unfiltered response of a grieving father seeking revenge for an unfathomable loss. The hearing was prompted by a criminal investigation that put 23-year-old Desean Brown at the center and sparked a strong response from the community. The victims of this criminal case were Natasha Lattimore and her 3-year-old son Nilo. On December 5, 2020, Natasha suffered a horrific death through a fatal stabbing. That wasn't the worst part though. Brown, after leaving her deceased body in her Walnut Hills apartment for several days, tried to dispose of it in the Ohio River. You would think that this would be the end of the horror, but Brown showed even more brutality. In a move that still baffles understanding, Brown took Nilo, who was still alive and obviously scared, and threw him into the Ohio River too. Tragically, the boy's body has never been found, leaving a painful wound in the hearts of his loved ones, especially his father, Antonio Hughes.
My heart to know my son out there and I can't bring his body home. He did that to him.
As the investigation progressed, the evidence started to suggest premeditation and cover-up. Brown had even purchased a body bag on eBay, a clue to the degree of forethought that increased the heinousness of the act.
Tonight, a new motive revealed for the killings of a 3-year-old and his mother. Desean Brown is accused of murdering Natasha Lattimore and her son Nilo in 2020. Reporter Courtney Francisco joins us live now. And Courtney, detectives say this motive could have stemmed from a miscarriage that woman had?
Natasha reportedly miscarried during her pregnancy with Brown's child. Unfortunately, Brown chose to exact revenge, mistakenly thinking that she had intentionally aborted his child. After being taken into custody, Brown was charged with aggravated murder, tampering with evidence, and grave abuse of a corpse. According to the defense, Brown should not be sentenced to death penalty as he suffers from bipolar disease. Although Brown may have had bipolar disorder, the judge ruled that this did not affect his capacity to use reason or recognize the nature, implications, or wrongness of his actions.
Suffered from a severe mental illness at the time of the offenses charged, and that severe mental illness significantly impaired his capacity to exercise rational judgment.
But it was what happened next that left everyone shocked. A heartbreaking scene unfolded as the courtroom was transformed into a dramatic setting where raw emotion and legal proceedings collided. The anger that had been building inside Antonio Hughes, Nilo's father, with devastating and terrifying intensity, he lunged at Brown, wanting to give him a taste of revenge. Hughes was escorted out by officers with handcuffs on, but he could not contain his wrath. It took 4 officers to restrain him as he tried to attack Brown once more. He was eventually ordered to serve 7 days in Hamilton Justice Center for contempt of court. The case is still ongoing with the jury trial set for January 27, 2025. But this wouldn't be the last time a killer would come face to face with the victims' families' karma in court. This is Michelle Blair. She's accused of killing several people in Michigan in a case that shocked and horrified the country. Michelle Blair, a mother of 4 from Detroit, killed 2 of her own children and preserved their bodies in a freezer for almost 3 years.
To my understanding, to get a trial is to get to the truth, right? I'm already saying that I did it. I'm freely giving myself and accepting life in prison. My son is worth that to me. So what I don't understand is, from what I heard today, why the prosecutors are dragging their feet. If I'm already giving myself to you, like, hey, I did this, what's the problem? You get what I'm saying? I'm not gonna come back like, oh, I didn't understand my rights. I'm not a coward.
According to Blair, it all began when her older children, Stephen Barry and Stoney Blair, allegedly started sexually abusing her youngest child, Matthew. Blair's statement exposed a startling chain of events. She stated that in August 2012, she found her son Matthew stimulating sexual activities with dolls and later found out he had been sexually abused by his elder brother Stephen. Blair became enraged and physically attacked Stephen, forcing him to drink Windex and choking him while splashing boiling hot water on his genitalia. Eventually, Stephen succumbed to the abuse. 9 months later, Blair found out that her daughter Stoney was also assaulting Matthew sexually. She consequently starved and severely assaulted Stoney until the girl died in May of 2013. Instead of reporting it to the police, Blair put Stoney's body in a plastic bag and hid it in the freezer alongside Stephen's body. The full scope of the evil that occurred within the Blair household would remain unknown until March 24, 2015. While performing an eviction for the family at their Martin Luther King apartments, a crew made a terrifying discovery that shocked the neighborhood. The bodies of Stephen Barry and Stoney Blair, whose young lives were brutally taken by their own mother, were discovered deep beneath the freezer. With the discovery of the children's remains, a protracted and difficult court battle began that would bring Michelle Blair to face justice. The horrifying facts of the torture inflicted upon Stephen and Stoney surfaced throughout the court hearings, leaving everyone who heard them in a state of horror. Blair's defense lawyer contended that her past mistreatment and lack of support were the causes of her acts. The prosecution, however, retorted that there was insufficient proof to substantiate her allegations that her kids had mistreated their brothers. Notably, Matthew's allegation of sexual assault were never proven. Even though she wasn't attacked by anyone, Blair's court appearances were filled with drama. She frequently needed to be removed from court due to her frequent outbursts.
But that does not negate the fact that they were never there for their children. I had to struggle with them all the time. They were never there.
Blair did not display any regret throughout the trial, maintaining that she did the right thing. In June 2015, Michelle Blair entered a guilty plea to first-degree murder for the killing of her daughter and felony murder for the death of her son. At solemn sentencing hearing presided over by Wayne County Circuit Judge Dana Hathaway, Blair was sentenced to the mandatory life in prison without the possibility of parole. Blair had some parting shots at Stoney's father.
You lived well without seeing them throughout their whole life, so live well now. But you ain't got nothing to say to me for what I did for my child, period.
Michelle Blair is currently serving her sentence at the Huron Valley Correctional Facility in Ypsilanti, Michigan. She might have been lucky no one attacked her in court, but Kwin Boes cannot say the same. We head down to Gibson County Courthouse where Judge Robert Craig is about to deliver the final verdict of 23-year-old Kwin Boes, a father sentenced for the unthinkable crime of killing his infant son. Everything was going smoothly in a little Indiana community up until May 2018. Then Parker Boes, aged 11 weeks, died of blunt force trauma to the head, an injury that he suffered while under his father's care. When questioned, Kwin Boes first stated that he didn't know there was a problem until he woke up, saying he was asleep when the head injury occurred. He said the baby had fallen off his nursing pillow and onto the ground. However, medical professionals concluded that the child's brain injuries could not have been the result of an accident, and that it appeared that an adult had inflicted the injury. One would assume that it was some perverted freak who hurt the baby Boes. Shockingly, investigations pointed to his father, Kwin Boes. The evidence indicated that Parker had been attacked by his father, which became clear as detectives pieced together the horrific events of Parker's last moments. Kwin was taken into custody and charged with first-degree murder. He was facing up to 40 years behind bars. However, things took an unexpected turn when Kwin's trial abruptly ended and a plea deal was struck. Kwin admitted to a level 2 felony charge of domestic battery resulting in death in exchange for the serious accusation of first-degree murder to be dropped. This plea deal drastically changed Kwin's circumstances by lowering the length of his imprisonment.
A judge has sentenced Kwin Boes to 19 years in prison and 6 years probation.
The final judgment handed down was 25 years with 19 years to be served in prison and the remaining 6 on probation. One would have thought the case was over at this point, but not according to the victim's uncle. As Kwin Boes was led out of the courtroom to serve the 25-year term imposed upon him, the baby's uncle, Jeremiah Hartley, often known as Matt, was struck with a wave of anguish and wrath. In a moment that would stay ingrained in the memories of everyone present, Matt made a move to deliver a more vicious sentence. He lunged forward, swiftly attacking Boes and hitting him several times. Following the incident, Matt was charged with battery and contempt of court and was consequently sentenced to 179 days in jail. What do you do when someone you trusted with your child fails to protect them? One father, Dwayne Smith, decided to punish the killer of his baby, taking matters into his own hands in the case of Jasmine Gordon and Clifford Thomas. The grave atmosphere in the courtroom was about to be broken as the judge slammed the gavel in the Wayne County Circuit Court, sealing the fate of Clifford Thomas and Jasmine Gordon, who'd been found guilty in a murder case that rocked the community. The father of the 3-year-old victim had a parting gift for the pair just as they were being sentenced. But how did it all get here? Little Jamila Smith was dependent on Jasmine and her boyfriend Clifford for care and safety, creating a complicated relationship between the three of them. However, everything changed on September 18, 2014, when Jamila was taken to the hospital unconscious. When Jasmine was pressed for answers by the emergency medical technician who answered the phone, she remained silent. The forensic pathologist described severe injuries, including internal bleeding, a ruptured pancreas, and other unmistakable indicators of abuse. Jamila's death was then declared a homicide, and Clifford and Jasmine were taken into custody as the suspects. The courtroom was a battlefield of emotions during the trial, especially since testimony from the medical staff who treated Jamila suggested abuse.
The child had over 50 injuries, and they were at various stages of healing. The medical examiner also testified that it is highly unlikely that this child could have inflicted these wounds upon herself, even if she was clumsy.
Jasmine Gordon's indifferent appearance during the court proceedings stood in stark contrast to the crime that was done. She remained silent even in the face of the judge's harsh criticism.
Like, you did not know that your child was being abused, either by you or the man that sat at home all day with your child while you worked and he did not.
Jamila's bereaved father, Dwayne Smith, appeared to have had enough. In one swift move, he suddenly lunged at Thomas, hitting him on the jaw. A fight then followed. The deputies intervened quickly, pulling the two men apart. Clifford Thomas chose not to file charges against Dwayne Smith, and the judge decided to not hold him in contempt, which is ideally what happens. Jasmine Gordon was sentenced to 7 to 15 years for involuntary manslaughter and an extra 14 to 25 years for the first-degree child abuse as an aider and abettor of the crime. Clifford Thomas received sentences ranging from 1 to 2 years for resisting and obstructing a police officer to around 6 to 15 years for involuntary homicide. Do you think these baby killers got the sentences they deserved? Let us know in the comments below.